I'd been through addiction quite a bit, and I'd been in and out for a long time, and I'd been to rehab, been to jail, done all the things, never got sober. So I looked up at the roof of my car and I said, God, when you're done watching me live this way, you'll stop me. But until then, I'm gonna ride till the wheels fall off. I'd reached what they talk about in the AA book, the jumping off point. I couldn't go on with it, but I knew I couldn't go on without it either.
Yeah.
It was the scariest moment of my life. And I was fully ready. I was like, just take me out forever. Not worth it anymore. And I have a really funny God. On December 19th, 2019, I was arrested.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be? Brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous. Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. As we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Marianne Williamson.
Welcome to Powerful Beyond Measure, a podcast about radical transformation, gritty stories, and the undeniable power of second chances. I'm your host, Matt Culp, a man in long-term recovery who believes in the power of grace, grit, and growth. Each week, we sit down with real people who've overcome real struggles, from addiction to adversity, and came out on the other side. No fluff, no filters, just truth, healing, and hope. And the truth is, you were powerful beyond measure, and it's time you knew it. Is it Jessica or Jess? Jess, okay. So usually what we do is, it's kind of like AA story, kind of like what it was like, what happened, what it's like now, kind of just introduce yourself and then go. And then usually I found that like the best guests are like you just kind of go. Like we'll go down any rabbit hole you want to go down. I'll have questions. I'll kind of be like, well, let's talk about that more. And like, I'll pull us back. Like don't try to stay on topic. Like we're going to try to like lose ourselves kind of. And then I'll pull it back. Like, oh, well, we were talking about when you were 15 or whatever. And then we'll kind of go there. And then afterwards, it seems like we'll kind of just try to talk about recovery. That's usually where a lot of the good stuff happens.
Absolutely. It's the best part.
Yeah. So just introduce yourself, where you're from, how old are you, and then kind of go from there.
All right. So my name's Jess Francis. I'm from Pulaski, Tennessee. I'll be 30 August 27th, and I'm a twin mom, which is my favorite fact about myself. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I have been sober since December 19th of 2019, and I was quite literally arrested in addiction. So I'm really excited to talk about it and get to go through my story. So my entire life, I was always kind of like an outcast. My dad was in prison, and I took it really personally. So like when my dad was in prison for 18 years, he was never there.
For what?
Drugs and alcohol, and just all the crime that we do while we're using.
Yeah.
So that affected me a lot as a child and even as an adult, but I never realized it until after everything. But so I always felt like, I was in a single mom household. Everybody else had a dad. I didn't have one. So I just always felt left out, and I would do anything to make myself feel better or feel like I could be a part of. And I always use this analogy for addiction. I knew I had a problem because I drank and ate so much chocolate milk and chocolate ice cream as a child because I hated it till I tried it. And as it was brown, I didn't want it. When I ate so much that I caused myself to have an allergic reaction. And like my whole body swell up in hives. And I will use and abuse anything until it hurts me. And then once it hurts me, I'll still do it until I can't take it anymore. So like that's my favorite analogy, is even as a child.
Yeah.
I was just a mess.
My first addiction was food, ice cream, chocolate ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, my mom did her best. I've never blamed her. She's a single mom, and she had me when she was like 21. So she did the best she could with what she was dealt. And then she was also in love with a man that was a criminal and an addict, and she didn't know how to deal with that.
Did they like stay together?
No, I've never really seen my parents together
Okay.
because he went to jail when I was 4. My very first memory of my father was I asked my mom where he was. He told me he was in jail, and my childlike mind thought of him as floating around in one of those like LA bottle hair gels that was in the it was in the 90s. So like
Yeah.
I thought he was floating around in a bottle of hair gel. I didn't know what jail meant. So like all I ever knew was him being locked up. And then my grandma would try to take me to go see him. My mom didn't want me in these all men's prisons as a little girl. And like, she didn't know what she was sending me into, so she was scared of it. So like I always wanted that relationship with him, but I had a really good relationship with his family. And that messed me up more, I think, because I got to see all of my cousins and my aunts and my uncles with their whole family.
Yeah.
And I was there with my grandparents because my dad couldn't get his life together. And it really like kind of stung a lot because I would look around, everybody was so happy, and I just felt misplaced in my own family. As we'd do family reunions in Kentucky, like we would always do these things, and it would be like, there's Jesse, but like I didn't have anybody that connected me to them like everybody else did.
Okay.
So then I would always be with my grandparents, and then I was like maybe 10 or 11. One of my cousins tried to molest me when I was a kid, so I ran screaming, and none of my dad's family like believed me. So my mom wouldn't let me go over there anymore because she knew. She asked me as soon as I got in the car, and she was like, what happened to you while you were there? And I told her. She told everybody they wouldn't believe her, and they chose my cousin over me. So my cousin got to go on the family trips, and I wasn't allowed to go anywhere with them anymore. And that stung too. So as a small child, I dealt with a lot of loss and a lot of death and a lot of abandonment, I think, and I took it really personally. Because my Oma died when I was like 9 or 10 too. Because I remember my Oma died and my dad got out of prison at the same time.
What, Alma is your grandma?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And when he got out of prison, he got out on parole, and I was like 10 or 11, maybe 12, like around that age range. And he lived in Nashville, so he lived in a quarterway house because he was in drug court. I would go spend the night in these quarterway houses every other weekend and go to drug court with my dad. I knew that jail and drug court existed. I did not know rehab or recovery did. And so like I would go with my dad to share his story. I would do all those things. And then he got my stepmom pregnant. My little sister was born, and my dad went back to prison. Like it was pretty clear cut. So I thought it was our fault. I thought my sister and I were too much on him because he didn't go to prison until I was born. And then he didn't go back till my sister was born. So in my mind, I'm like, stop having kids, dude. You need to be there for the ones you already have. So like that really messed me up too, because I got a very small taste of having my father, and then it was ripped away. And my mom was already with my stepdad at that point, who is an abusive alcoholic. And I still love the man to death, and I still call him my dad, but he was an abusive alcoholic, and that's the truth about him. But he raised me. And I remember when my dad went back to prison, all his family was so scared to tell me because they didn't want to hurt me. So my mom had to tell me, and I remember dropping to my knees in our apartment and my stepdad looking at me and saying, I don't know why you're crying. You knew this was going to happen. And like as a child, I'm like, no, I didn't, So like that affected me the most, I think, as a child, was just the dad not knowing, not having one for real. And then the one that I did treat as a father was still an alcoholic and still abusive and very traumatic growing up in the household with him, and he wouldn't remember things. And then the other father figure, Sean, my stepdad, he also would get really drunk and like beat up my mom. So one night I fought him over it, and he told me the next day that if he ever got that drunk again, to pull out his gun and shoot him, which was really traumatic for a 15-year-old girl. So I just grew up in a lot of chaos, and drugs and alcohol was just very prominent in my life. Like I never knew anything different. So I thought that's how everybody lived. And then I started smoking marijuana when I was like 16. I didn't do anything too crazy till I was able to drive, because I was always too scared to do anything in my house. So when I was able to drive, I kind of just started smoking, and I loved it. I drank before that, but drinking wasn't really like, it was fun. I could talk to boys, and I felt pretty and a part of for once, but I also didn't like not having control over myself.
Yeah.
So weed, I could just smoke and be chill and fine, and I could go to school, and I didn't have to like hide it so much. So like throughout 16 to 18, I partied like a mother, man. It was bad. I'm from a small town. That's all we had to do. So we would go out to like two guys, their parents were always out of town on the weekends. They were like 26 years old. Looking back now, I had no business out at 26-year-olds' houses at 16, 17 years old. But we would always go out there and party like every weekend. And I worked at Sonic. So I would get off work Friday night, go to the party. I'd have to work Saturday morning.
This is every movie of every small town.
Yeah. I'd get out of the car, I'd go to the party, wake up the next morning to go to work from the party, get off Saturday afternoon, go party some more, wake up Sunday and go to work. And then I'd come back to the party house on Sunday afternoons because they paid me to clean up the mess that I made. So I was like, I'm making money. This can't be a problem. And then one night I pulled the whole, I'm staying at this person's house and they're staying at my house, and we lied to our parents. And my mom, the next morning, I had to be at work and she couldn't get in touch with me. And I'm passed out in somebody's bed all by myself because I was awful the night before. I wake up in this house and I hear my mom's voice. And I'm hearing, where's my daughter? Where's my daughter? And I'm like, my eyes popped up immediately. I'm like, that's not supposed to be here. She's cussing everybody out in the living room. She done went and jerked some other girl out of another bed by the back of her head, realized she wasn't me, dropped that girl straight back down, came and found me, cussed me out, walked me to my car, and then like my car wouldn't do something. They got a flat tire. Something was wrong. So then she goes and cusses everybody out in the house and makes them come help me get out of their driveway. So, my mom was that kind of mom, and she was always going to bust up and find me. And even after that, it didn't stop me. Like, it honestly made me want to do it more. I was like, once I get ungrounded, I'm about to party even harder. I woke up with throw up still in my mouth that morning. That was awful, but I couldn't wait to do it again. And that was like, I didn't think it was an issue. I thought I was just a teenager. My mom even was like, you're just a teenager, teenagers party.
Yeah.
But like, you also need to remember you're a kid, so you need to be safe. Because she had like went through my phone records and called my last call that night and found out where I was. And so like, she was like, I don't want to hunt you down. I need you to like be where you're supposed to be. And I never like, as a parent now, I understand it. But then I was just like, why can't I have fun? And then every time I went to the party after that, everybody made sure my mama knew where I was at. Like, they were not playing. But, then right before I turned 18, I had this like fun time that I called my minor week of craziness, because it was my last week of being 17, and I thought you couldn't be charged with a crime like that before 18, which I didn't, luckily. But I thought like I had this whole week to really just do whatever I wanted as a kid and like not have to pay the repercussions for it, which is a great idea for me, like at that time. So I did all the diet pills that were like all the rave back then. I smoked a bunch. I was doing all these things. I overdosed. It's like probably the only time I've ever overdosed, because I'm a methamphetamine addict. I didn't really do anything you could kill yourself with, but I did that night. And I scared the hell out of myself, but I had a really good time. And so I was like, all right, next week I turn 18. What's next? And I started doing meth. But I was dating this guy.
Yeah, I was about to ask how that happened.
Yeah. I was dating this guy, and he was a guy that I always really liked, like all throughout high school. He was a few years older than me, but I just always had this big crush on him. And when I turned 18, it was finally realistic. So we started dating. I didn't know going into the relationship. Like, I was doing Xanax, I was doing pills, I was doing a lot of not good things for myself, but I wasn't doing like anything super hard yet. And when we got in the relationship, I was unaware that him and everybody he was around was on meth. We were all in my car one night actually, and I was driving, and they're all talking about meth and dope. And I was like, who the fuck has dope in this car? And they were like, we all do. And I was like, what? And like, I actually freaked out, panicked, and went off on everybody. Cause in my mind, meth is bad. That man came to the school with his face half blown off, man. Like, I don't want to do that. But then throughout our relationship, he always did it. I never got high with him. I didn't trust him at all. He was very bad off once I realized what was going on, and I felt like if we did that together, it was going to be the end all be all for me. But after our relationship ended, his dealer came up to me and told me that this man had offered sex with me for drugs that I'd never done, drugs that I had no part of, and didn't even talk to me about it, just offered that to him. And he was like, I didn't want to take it because you're a really good girl, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I wasn't going to give it to you. So I don't understand how this was even a deal that was made. But after hearing that, I really wanted to know what makes it that powerful. Like, why would you do that to somebody that literally gave you all her money, all of her stuff, worked all day, let you have her car? Like, you did that to me and I did everything for you. Why would you do that? So I'm a very, very manipulative individual, and I knew who all did it in my town. So I went and a couple of people were really good friends of mine. So I went over to their house and I just talked about it. I was like, I want to do it. I really wish I knew who did it. And then they finally pulled it out and they were like, you want to get high? It was their favorite thing to get somebody high for their first time. And I was just a willing participant. And then the first time I did it, I didn't feel anything. I went to work at Sonic and I thought I was going to do like fast work and I didn't do anything. I was like, this is lame. So then I had to keep chasing it. And because I was like, what makes it so great? Why would you do that to somebody? And then I was on it for...
Why didn't you get high the first time?
What?
Why didn't you get high the first time?
I don't know. It's weird. I was like, this is supposed to do something. I went to work and went to bed. But then I just kept going to their house. I knew that that's where I could get high. And I also had this like silly mind frame. If I don't learn how to use myself, if I don't learn how to roll a bowl, if I don't learn how to run a foil, I can keep a cap on this. I won't have to do anything crazy and I won't ever use like that and it won't be a problem. Then I learned how to run a foil and I learned how to roll a bowl and I learned where you could buy all the things. But I really was like ruining everything also because in the process of me trying meth, I quit smoking weed because I wanted to get a better job. So I quit smoking weed and everything. I was smoking the legal weed that everybody did all those back then. And then whenever I tried dope, I wasn't doing anything else and I was working 2 jobs. So like it really just became, I was taking Ativan, I was taking Adderall, I was taking anything that would keep me awake. And I was staying awake all the time because I worked day shift at a call center in Spring Hill. And then I drove all the way home to Sonic at night and worked a night shift at Sonic. And then I'd go home. I don't know what I thought I needed all this money for, but that was like the way, that was my routine. And it stayed that way up until, like, the legal is how I met my kid's father, legal and meth. I would have never met him and had the relationship I had with him had it not been for drug use. Because we went to school together and I thought he was the cutest thing in the world all throughout high school, but he never paid me no mind and we had 2 different lifestyles. So whenever our paths collided, it was like first sight. Like we just stuck together from there on out.
Yeah.
And also, and this is just the truth, he was a dope cook and I wanted to get high. And that was really like the firm foundation our relationship was created on. And then about a month after we got together, I found out I was pregnant. And it was, everybody was barking down my throat. I had to quit getting high. My mom wanted me to move back in her house. Everything had to change. And I was 18. I was pregnant and I just started. I don't want to stop yet. Like I'm having a great time. And I didn't stop. I found out I was pregnant like as early as you can find out. Like as soon as I missed my period, I went and took a test and found out.
Yeah.
I used dope until I was 8 weeks pregnant. And I'm not necessarily proud of it. I knew I was pregnant and I was still getting high, but I was also not sure what I was doing next. I honestly very, very seriously considered getting an abortion because when I found out it was twins, terrified. At 18, and I'm a drug addict, I can't do this, and I knew that, and it was really scary. So my mom talked to me because I knew that if I went through with having an abortion, I was going to kill myself. Like I knew my morals, the way that my mind works. I was only going to do that so I could continue to get high, and I was going to end up killing myself getting high because I couldn't live with the guilt and the shame of what I had done. I knew that. So I played that through, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. We're going to see what happens. Hopefully I can get my life together because I can't be a drug addict and a mom. There's no way you can do both. And I smoked throughout the entire pregnancy. I was just a really heavy smoker. Yeah, weed and cigarettes. Oh. I was a very heavy smoker, as a teenager in general. So I smoked throughout the entire pregnancy. I had my kids. I went into labor at 31 weeks. So I went to Murray Regional Hospital where I was meant to have the children, and they put me in an ambulance and sent me to Vandy immediately. And I ended up having the twins the very next day at Vanderbilt, and we stayed in there for a while. And it was scary, being 19 up there with these 2 little babies with all these cords coming out of them. No idea what to do. And, we're all just kind of flying by the seat of our pants because the whole world doesn't stop just because I had these kids. My world may have, but everybody else had to go to work. They couldn't I wasn't alone in Nashville. It was scary. So then they moved us to Murray Regional so we could be closer to home. And I made some friends that gave me Adderall in the hospital, because I had a hospital room where I could be near the kids. And I was taking Adderall, running around the hospital like a crazy person, still fully believing that I could figure out a way to fix, manage, and control my life. And then when I went home, I was a stay-at-home mom for a little bit. So a drink a day kept the doctor away. And whenever people got home, I was home alone with babies all day. So when people got home, I was so excited to have a drink with you. Even if you didn't want one, I was going to have one.
And your baby daddy was there at the time?
No, me and Guy broke up me and Guy were not together throughout most of my pregnancy.
Okay.
Then we broke up after, like, he came to the hospital and I was in labor, and he was there throughout that. But when we got home, we kind of fell off again because he was in and out of his addiction throughout that entire time. He didn't have the exact rules and regulations I had, which we communicated most of the time pretty meanly to each other. But like, I lived with my mom, and then he lived kind of wherever he was staying at the time. But, you know, it was definitely a lot of hands on deck. And God would show up when he felt like it. And I mean, he could probably tell you that too. He was just not necessarily the most present person in the early years of their life. And then it was like their first or second birthday party that was at my house that God couldn't come to, that he wanted to come to so bad, but the police were all over my neighborhood because he was on the run. So like throughout that first year, I had a boyfriend that was like kind of helping. There was a lot going on. I was trying to figure out what all this looked like. And I was still drinking, I was smoking, but I wasn't necessarily doing anything else. Like I would take an Adderall here or there, but like I thought I had a good control over it all. And then, when me and the dude broke up, Guy like went wild, man. Like there was some stuff that went on between this, but between their first and like second or third birthday, things really went unhinged. Like me and Guy were able to pull it together for a year. After that, I ended up back on dope. He ended up back on dope way before I was. And then like one day we finally got honest with each other. Cause like we were just running away from each other. We both knew what was going on. We just was trying to keep it a secret from the other. And like we were also trying to keep the other one from knowing that we knew. It was a really silly game that we were playing.
About the drugs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so I sat down and like I called him one day and I was like, I need you to meet me. I need to know what's going on, you know? And me and him met up. He took me on a ride and he was like, I don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. I'm on the run. Life is hard right now. I don't know what to tell you, but I can't be involved in anything because it's not safe. And I was like, cool, that's all I needed to know. And then about a week or two later, I was working, because at this time I had 2 jobs again. I worked at Walmart during the day, like 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. And I worked at Tennessean at night till midnight.
To where?
The Tennessean, the truck stop.
Okay.
So I was at work at the truck stop one night, and Guy's niece calls me, answered the phone, and I knew, I knew when I saw a missed call what was going on. Guy had been arrested on bad charges. And then the next day I was at work at Walmart, and I get a phone call that not only was he arrested, he was also on the state news, all over it. So that's how my entire family found out what I was up to. My grandfather, my grandmother, my entire dad's side, my mom's side, like my mom kind of knew, like she always knew what I was doing. She would just hide it from herself. Like she would avoid facing it. But they all thought shit was fine. And then they saw him all over the news for all these charges of meth for resale, legal shotguns, all that. And I'm getting my phone blown up. And everybody in our little town's looking at me like I'm about to fall apart. The police are picking on me. I'm up to no good as it is, but more than anything, I'm ready to fall apart. I'm ready to make everybody right. Because how can I, like, go through this? Because I don't like people looking at me like I'm a sob story. I've been taking care of the kids by myself this whole time. He's just in jail now. I just put him on child support. This is great. You know, now I'm never going to get it. So I remember getting pulled over by a police officer, and I thought, because I'm stupid, that telling them that Guy was my baby daddy would make them feel bad for me. But no, it had them jerk me out of my car and search it so quick because they already knew who I was. And they were wanting to find me up to no good, which I had nothing on me that day. And it was really rough. I tried to be there for Guy. I tried to be there for his family. Throughout all that, I almost put my car up for him to get out of jail. Glad I didn't do that. I'm done. Like, I really can honestly say that, like, Guy was probably the first man I ever loved, and meth was the first thing I ever loved in my life, like, outside of family. And those two together, I was willing to do whatever to keep it. And so when he went to jail, all things like kind of went to halt. But that's why he avoided the kid's birthday party that year, is because he didn't want to go to jail. And they ended up catching him anyway by pulling up on him. And so like I just dealt with that in the only way I knew how, which was I got high. I got high about it, got high as hell. And I found out a lot of truths and done a lot of digging to figure out exactly what he'd been up to. And the type of people he was around, like I just kind of wanted to know and see if I could put a blame on somebody other than him, because it was easier to do that. And today, I know it was whose fault it was that he got in trouble. Went to every court date. I hate courthouses, but I showed up. And then, when he got out of jail, I was probably the lowest I'd ever been in my life. I was living in my little apartment. I had this little boyfriend. All I was doing was dope. Like, I didn't care about anybody else. My kids, like, I remember my mom. I woke up one morning to my mom in my house. There was some other, like, a good friend of mine was at the house. He was passed out in my room. Glass everywhere, like glass bottles, glass bongs, glass everything everywhere, just strawed all over the house, drugs all over the house. I'm passed out on the couch and my kids are just running around the house. So I woke up to my mom saying, you're never going to see them again. You're not going to get them by yourself ever again. You're a junkie. You can't keep doing this. And I was still like, no, I'm not. You have a problem. I just need to go to work. Like everything will be fine if I can go punch the clock right now. And she was like, you need to go to rehab. And I was like, no, I don't. Got to go to work. Like I need money. I don't need help. And I finally, like when Guy got out, he stood on my front porch and he looked me in the eyes and he said something he never said to me before. He said, you look worse than I've ever seen you. Your mind is worse than I've ever seen it. My family has seen you walking down the street and picked you up so that way you wasn't in the cold and in the dark and they took you to get food. He said, that's something that I've never expected from you. You've never been this low before. And like, all I could say was, I know. I don't know what to do about it, but I know. I'm aware. I'm just digging it deeper. And, that kind of struck me, but it wasn't enough. So then I made this grand decision. I'm going to move to Decatur, Alabama, because my nanny lives there. And maybe y'all will leave me alone. And maybe a geographical change can save my life. Did not know that meth was in the vending machines down there in Decatur. Like, I did not know that it was that bad. But I was working at some factory in Lawrenceburg called like Modine. I've been working there for maybe a week and a half. And one night I told him I had bad chicken and I needed to leave because I was sick. And that was the day that my nanny told me I could come live in Decatur with her. So I needed to go shopping to go live in Decatur. Then the next day I decided to try to go to work one more day. And then I walked up to the boss and straight up said, hey, I'm going to rehab. I got to go. Bye. And I just left. And I moved to my nanny's house in Alabama, and she was amazing. And the deal was I'd live there until we could find me a treatment center to go to because I was not being a very good adult and my insurance lapsed. So I had no insurance. I had no way of Mama was like, stay there. I'm going to get you into treatment somehow. And I got into Mending Hearts. So my mom came and got me after a week in Decatur. She came and got me, took me to probation, and then took me to Mending Hearts. And I was there for a day. They had me color a paper that had like a vagina on one side and a dick on the other. It was the craziest thing I'd ever seen in my life. I was like, I have kids. It was sex ed. I was like, I have kids. I don't need this. And then they had me doing those Mandela boards where you run your finger through it and like you couldn't call your family the whole time. It was just a lot. And I was like, I want to go. I don't want to do this. And they were like, no, you don't get to do that. And I was like, yeah, I do. I'm going to leave. And they were like, no, you're not. I was like, let me call my mom. They're like, no.
Were you on furlough from probation?
No.
Okay.
I was there on my own accord, and I was like, let me call my mom. And they were like, no. So this is the worst I think I've ever acted under no, type of...
drugs.
Yeah, I was completely sober. But I looked at her, I was like, okay, cool. If you don't want to let me go call my mom, I'm going to go pack my bag, I'm going to walk down here to this gas station down the road, and they're going to let me call my mom. And she was like, okay. Took off, walked into my room. Went and packed my bag. They didn't believe me until I started walking down the street with my suitcase to go call my mom. And then they're chasing me. They're like, we'll let you call her. So they put us in this speakerphone call. I call my mom. I'm like, come get me, dog. I ain't doing this no more. They're crazy. And she was like, no, you really need to stay. She was calling my dad's mom, my mama, trying to get some advice because my mama had been through this and stuff. So my mama was like, no, leave her there. Well, Mending Arts then said I couldn't stay no more because I done made such a big scene. So they were like, either you come get her or she's going to go to the homeless shelter. And my mom was like, no, I'm on my way, you know, don't send her to the homeless shelter. And they were like, okay, we'll just send her back out there with the community and wait for you to get here for her. They didn't send me with no damn community. They put me in a big ass conference room all by myself with my thoughts. Okay. Like I didn't see nobody else. But my mom came and got me, drove me straight to Decatur, dropped my happy ass off, left me with no car, no nothing. Didn't even stop by our house on the way. Took me straight back to my nanny's house. And she was like, you can't come home. Like, I am scared you're going to die. I can't keep you here. So you're going to stay here with no car for at least a week. We'll figure things out. Because I still had to be able to go across state lines to get back and forth to probation. So, like, I needed a car. So then I got a job at the Waffle House right off the bridge in Decatur, which is a dope edge dream. Honestly, it was the best job I think I've ever had. To this day, favorite career that I ever had. It was so fun.
I've applied at Waffle House 10 times. I've never been hired.
It's so fun.
It's my it's the job that I want to do.
It's
I've
so
also,
fun.
I've had a lot of Waffle House waitresses. So
That might be what it is.
no, it wasn't that. I really liked the environment, but I hung out there a lot, and then waitresses are there.
Absolutely. It's fun. It's a good job. Like, I loved it. The reason I applied was I went there, like my mom, I was able to go home and get my car. It's literally the first Waffle House off the bridge coming into Decatur, Alabama. So not in the best part of town, but I stopped by there because I love Waffle House. It's my favorite food.
Yeah, I love it too.
It's my favorite. And then all the cooks and stuff, like I'm just a customer, okay, sitting at the bar eating, and all the cooks and stuff are like, we're about to go smoke a blunt. And I was like, cool, I want to do it. And they were like, come on, and took me around back behind the counter and walked me back to the back where they were going to smoke this blunt. I was like, how do I apply? This is my dream. I need to work here. So I applied and I got the job. And again, favorite job I've ever had. I had the time of my life. I worked third shift. So and it was so fun. And
Did you get all the drunk people?
So all the drunk people, all the high people. I watched a lady drive her car into a bush, back up and try again, and then come in the restaurant, order a waffle, face plant the waffle. Then we had to call the police to come get her because she locked herself in the bathroom. I mean, it was never a dull moment.
Yeah.
And there's a few funny stories from the Waffle House.
I'm sure.
And one of them is, like, I still don't know how I'm alive. I almost got kidnapped a couple times in Decatur. One time was like by this scary fisherman. One time was by this random guy that walked up on me when I was sitting outside the Waffle House smoking a cigarette. And another time across the street, across the bridge, there's this little park. That's not really a park, but it's like a place you can go park your car. And like, I love water. Always have. I feel most at peace and comfortable when I'm looking at it. So I would always go park where I could face the river. And I drove a minivan. So I would sit in the middle row of my minivan. I took the middle console out, so I would just walk through. And I'd sit my feet up on the armrest. I'd get on the phone and I'd roll my bowl and I'd have a good time. And I might even sleep there. Who knows, And one day this man pulls up beside me, and the way that he backed his truck in, I was unable to back my car back out if I wanted to. And I was on the phone with my mom, and I told her my phone was about to die and I had to go. And he gets out of his truck, walks around to the woods over there, comes back to me, and then comes and puts his arm inside my whole window and says, "Did you say your phone's about to die?" And I was like, "No, everything's fine." And like started getting up and like moving the car around and stuff. And as soon as he like realized I was leaving, he got in his truck and left. Scariest thing I ever went through. I called my mom. I said, I about died. But there was some creeps in Decatur. And the most dangerous thing I ever did was just go and get high with one willy-nilly one time. There was this man that was camping at Point Mallard, and he came up to Waffle House to eat one night, and he wasn't even in my section. And I walked outside after he got done eating because me and, we'd all go outside after everybody left.
Yeah.
And I was smoking a cigarette talking to the cook, and this guy walks up to me that was in that other section, and he goes, "Hey, are you off?" And I was like, "No, I don't get off till 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm here for a long haul." He was like, "Damn, I was going to see if you wanted to get high with me." I was like, "I do that in the parking lot all the time. Go to my van. Let's go get high." He was like, "No, like high." I was like, "I do that in the parking lot too. Come on, let's go roll a bowl." And then he came back the next morning and met me, and we drove across my little park and got high together. I made another one of my coworkers come just so I didn't get kidnapped.
Yeah,
but
that's how all the Waffle House waitresses said. Yeah, just like that.
Yeah, so and then my last night working at Waffle House, it was kind of funny. I had nothing to lose. So I was very honest with the regular customers. A lot of the regulars hated my ass because I was very much I was just chaotic and probably not the best waitress, really, because I was more focused on cleaning than I was anything else. And this one man that was always so mean to me, never tipped me or anything. And I was like, "It's my last night." And he was like, "Where are you going?" I was like, "Rehab." And he gave me a $50 tip. And then another man, I walked outside to go smoke a cigarette. He chased me through the parking lot with a sack of weed saying, I just wanted you to try this. And I was like, I'm going to rehab tomorrow. This is great. I was like, y'all just know the business around here, I guess. And I also had a drug dealer in Decatur that loved the Waffle House apple pie covered in butter. So he would give me however much dope I wanted anytime I gave him an apple, like a free apple slice. Or one time I gave him a whole pie. He gave me like 8 ball for free. He was like, here you go. If you want more, let me know. You don't have to bring me a pie for a minute. So like I had it made kind of. And I also busted my nanny's window out of her house because she locked me in her room one time on accident. But like it was just a lot of random stuff that happened there. And I haven't figured out how I survived it. But I did violate while I was there because I went and failed a drug test for meth. And I really thought that I was going to beat the case there. But I violated it, and that's what sent me to rehab the second time. So I went to Mirror Lake. And I met a lot of fun friends that I still talk to regularly. One of them actually is who got me into the rehab. They got me sober. But I went to Mirror Lake for 30 days, and I did not go for me. I went for my mom. I went for my kids. I went for probation. I went really, in all truthfulness, I was on, like, I remember telling my mom on the phone because she was cussing me out, telling me how bad I was and how awful I was doing and how disappointed she was. I said, I don't give a shit if I go to rehab or jail. I just want to go somewhere where you can't call me. I'm sick of talking to you. I want to call you first. I'm sick of this, And that hurt her a lot, actually. Like, she even told me, she was like, you can't believe you said that to me. And I was like, I can't believe you wouldn't leave me alone. Like, I was not the type of person to be messing with like that on that level at that time. So then when I went to Mirror Lake, I had my little rehab boyfriend like everybody does. He was fucking handicapped. It was weird. He was in a wheelchair half the time. I don't know. I was not.
Half the time?
Yeah, he hurt himself while we were there and like hurt his leg real bad. And because, it's camp rehab at Mirror Lake. That's just camp.
Yeah.
But I remember he was a really nice guy. And I hope he's doing well.
Rehab love.
Rehab love. But, it was a good time. I liked Mirror Lake a lot, but I didn't utilize it for what it was for. I utilized it as a social club, really. I mean, people would even ask me, what are you doing here? Like, you don't have a problem. You're just chilling. You haven't went through withdrawals. You haven't done anything. I'm like, y'all didn't see me when I was in the detox center. I was coloring for 5 days straight, not speaking to nobody. Okay, like, I went through it. They were making sure I was really good before I got set free. Because when I woke up in the detox unit at Mirror Lake, I'd gotten so high that I stayed up for so long, that I woke up in the detox unit to every nurse and patient in my room because they were all taking turns trying to get me up because I was impossible to wake. Like, they were worried. And I was like, what's everybody doing? Like, just trying to wake up. But Mirror Lake was fun. And then I got out of Mirror Lake. Like I said, made a lot of friends. I had a great time there. And I thought, okay, as long as I don't do meth, I'm okay. So I drank, I smoked. I done everything other than meth, really, until finally I did meth because that's what I do best. That's what I know. And it's kind of interesting because I relapsed on 4/20 of 2019 on meth. And I just actually been telling Guy because I felt like Guy was getting high behind my back. And we were like we were about to move in together. So I was doing my favorite game I like to play. I'm jealous of people that can get high. I really wish I could get high. I didn't know my last time was my last time. I'd like to just do it one more time. So he gets us a gram, and we both take my first time doing dope in like 6, 7, 8 months. I snorted a half a gram to the fucking face. And it kind of ruined it for me for a minute because I had a headache. I hated everything. Like, I was throwing up. It was so bad. And like, Guy's whole family thought I was pregnant again because I wouldn't stop throwing up. And he took me to a family function in this state. It was ridiculous. And then I almost got in a fight at the bar that night because the girl he was cheating on me with was there trying to be my friend. So I almost hit her in the head with the pool stick. He made me get out of there because like we lived right next door to the bar. And like we didn't even drive to the bar. We literally just walked outside of our trailer, walked over to the bar and had a great time. So that was like the first time in a long time that me and Guy really went through it all together from start to finish. And because like when we got together the first time, we were both already pretty deep in it. This time, like we really just was going right back into it together. And I thought that was like so romantic, couples who relapse together, stay together. And
they do.
Man, it's just such a solid foundation for a relationship.
Yeah.
And like, he was on probation, guy wasn't just on regular probation. He was on community. And I didn't think anything of it, and he violated it. And that fell on me. So then he goes to rehab, and I'll never forget, this rehab sent like a black SUV to come get this man from our driveway. He wouldn't come out of the bedroom, okay, because he just was so freaked out. And he left me with a $400 electric bill. And it didn't take me long to lose that trailer that we lived in because I'd never paid bills before. That apartment I had prior to all this, I never paid bills in that house.
Who paid for it?
Nobody. I just lived there. The landlord hated me, man.
I'm sure.
Then never paid electricity. I never paid nothing. And then like when my mom and them cleaned that house out, they found like 3 or 4 8 balls of dope just laying around. I was like, wow, I wish I would have known about that. But it was just whenever he went to rehab, I tried my hardest to like keep it together and keep the kids. Somebody called DCS on me and said I was back on meth. So somebody that knew me pretty well, whoever it was. So I fought a DCS case and won it somehow in the middle of addiction. I remember like they knocked on my door. I had just gotten out of the shower. The kids were at the babysitter's house, and I answered the door and nothing but a towel. And it's this woman. She's like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm a DCS caseworker. I'm here because somebody reported you." And I was like, "Can I get fucking dressed?" And got dressed, and I was really mean and hateful to her. And I kind of regret it now because she didn't deserve that. She was just doing her job. But I felt very attacked, and I felt like I had enough going on. I've already lost a lot. Please leave me alone. So I take her through my house, showed her I have adequate food. Kids have a room. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
She goes to my babysitter's house. The babysitter was a true G. And like, she didn't know. The babysitter did not know any different. And like, she very rarely saw me. She saw my mom most of the time. So the babysitter had my back. And then the DCS worker was like, okay, well, you're going to take a drug test. And I was like, okay. Like, it was that day. She's like, can you take a drug test? I was like, I actually just peed and I got to go somewhere right now. And so I was able to get out of that. And then I like knew there was a drug test. She texted me before the drug test came. So I remember I had a sack of dope. I went and threw that shit in the trash can and closed the lid. And I was like, I've got to pass this test. If I can't pass this test, I can't do anything. So I drug tested myself like right before she came to my house because we were also going to go see Guy the day that she came and drug tested me. We were going to go see him in rehab. I was taking the kids to see him for the first time. So I was like, this can't go bad, and I passed. I only failed for marijuana, and I still ain't figured that out. And she told me that they don't really, since I'd been to rehab and I'd been in, because like I was involved with DCS whenever I had the twins because the doctors gave me morphine through labor. So they had it in their system. So like I already had a case open and closed on me. So it was kind of a little bit easier, I guess. But I passed the drug test. I'd done everything that I was supposed to do. And I didn't have to do any extra stuff because of all the stuff I'd already been through. But that was scary as hell. And then my mom like kind of just took them again. And whenever I got put out of the trailer, I went and stayed with my mom. That only lasted a week. I couldn't handle her telling me what to do all the time anymore. I worked at the corner gas station, just like every good dope head does, corner store. I was the cook back there because I didn't know how to talk to people, right? I was very offensive apparently because I was very high all the time. I said exactly what was on my mind. And so I got in trouble, so I was always in the kitchen. Well, there was this old lady in the kitchen named Peggy that loved me like her daughter. And she had extra room in her house, so me and the twins were able to move in with her. And that was a really nice setup. I really appreciated it. She took care of us. She loved us. She was a really good housemate. Her daughter did not like it and like kind of went off because I wasn't paying no bills. And her daughter was like, she's not paying anything. She's got to go. So I left. I moved into another trailer with a really good friend of mine and her boyfriend and their kid, their baby. And I rented out a room in the back of the trailer. And we were all on dope because she just had the baby. So we were all on dope. And it worked out really well. I had a padlock on my door. It was a really nice living situation. I busted their water meter. I done a lot of shit to that damn trailer in the hood. It was a lot going on there. But I had a little setup. It's the cleanest room I've ever had in my life. And I organized and reorganized everything all the time because that's what us meth heads do. But throughout my time in the trailer, that was probably like the most delusional I think I ever become. I believed somebody had a camera like attached to the tree outside my window watching me. I believed, this is really funny. I was 90 pounds soaking wet at this time. And my roommate's boyfriend came in my room one time and he was like, did you move the dryer? Because we were an odd household. All our household appliances were outside. We had a fridge in our front yard. It was weird. But I was like, no. Do I look like I can move a dryer? And somebody done came on our back porch and turned our dryer on its side. And then another night I came home from work and the fridge we had 3 refrigerators. Only one of them worked. And the one that worked was just so happened to be outdoors. It hadn't got brought in yet. So I walk in the house and I was like, y'all know what happened to the refrigerator? Somebody stole our refrigerator out of our front yard. Okay. It was wild. I was like, what the hell? So, that was really, really messy. And 2 weeks before I was arrested, I looked up at the roof of my car because I'd been through addiction quite a bit and I'd been in and out for a long time and I'd been to rehab, been to jail, done all the things, never got sober. So I looked up at the roof of my car and I said, God, when you're done watching me live this way, you'll stop me. But until then, I'm gonna ride till the wheels fall off. And that prayer was ultimately meant God, you'll kill me when you're ready for me to stop. Because nothing else is going to arrest this. I can't live like this anymore. I'd reached what they talk about in the AA book, the jumping off point. I couldn't go on with it, but I knew I couldn't go on without it either.
Yeah.
It was the scariest moment of my life. And I was fully ready. I was like, just take me out forever. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired of hurting everyone. No one's ever been appreciative of what I've done. I can't do anything right. So just take me out. It's just not worth it anymore. And I have a really funny God. On December 19th, 2019, I was arrested. It's 6 a.m. on my way to go eat French toast at some dude's house and get high all day. I stopped at somebody's house that I didn't know. My friend went in there and got a sack. I look at my rearview mirror as we're leaving, and I've got 2 undercovers on my tail. They get in the car. When they pull us over, she's on state, so they pull us out of the car. They search the car. Everything's in my purse. Not only do I have dope, I got bags, I got scales, I got everything. And they charged me with possession for resale. And I remember, I really thought I was going to get out of it. I tried to fight them. I charged at them, and they immediately put me in cuffs. I tried to talk to them. My favorite line, let me go to work tonight, and I'll turn myself in tomorrow. Because, I worked at Magneti at the time, and it was a factory in our town, and we were literally going on Christmas break the next day. So I was like, if I can go to work tonight, I'll come see y'all. I'll come to the jail after work. It's right across the street, I promise, take me on my word, but I can't lose my job. And they were like, call out, you'll make bail. And I was like, you don't understand. Nobody's coming to get me, I'm not making bail. And I get in there, I pass out immediately when I got arrested in the drunk tank on that concrete fucking slab. I actually passed out with my head between my knees, just straight, folded. It was weird. And I woke up in a lot of pain, screamed through the beanhole at all the COs, please let me get out of here, do something. I'll talk, I'll talk to whoever needs to talk to me to get me the fuck out of here. And they were like, no. And then I heard them on the phone with my mom on speaker. So I started cussing her ass out through the beanhole too. And they were like, nobody's coming to get you if you act like that, And I was like, I don't give a fuck. It was probably the most psychotic that I'd ever acted. But I knew that I wasn't going to get high anytime soon. And that thought scared the fuck out of me. So however I got to act to get out of here so that I can go get high sooner. Because even in jail, I didn't understand that getting high is what landed me there. I thought that the cops were just pricks and out to get me. And I found out later that they'd been building a case against my ass. And they did not like me when I let them know if they would have waited one more day, they would have got the bus that they wanted. Because they had been watching me. And they were like, what does that mean? I was like, guess you'll never know. You got me today. It sucks to suck. But it was a lot of, and then whenever I got awake from my original fold, I went off on everybody, and then I laid back down and went to sleep. And then I woke back up to the first meal I'd had since, however long, because they only feed you twice in Giles County Jail. So I got fed 6 a.m., 6 p.m. So I had to wait on that 6 p.m. tray. They finally fed us and gave us a drink and everything. And I finally got to go back out to the pod. I realized that they weren't going to put me in the pod till I calmed the fuck down. So I went in the pod and, I called my mom every day. And then finally, she was like, I'm not coming to get you, blah, blah, blah. So I called a bail bondsman and myself. And I was like, listen, I think my mom told me she got my car from where they towed it. My purse is in there. and I'm pretty sure my debit card's in there. I get paid tomorrow. Go to my mom's house, get my shit, come get me, and I'll pay you. And so they call my mom. And I called him back, and I was like, so what'd she say? Is she going to give you my stuff? And he was like, no, she said she's going to come get you in a couple days and to leave us all alone. And I was like, no, somebody come get me. So, like, she had actually called the same bail bondsman as I had already. Like, she was coming to get me. She was just making me sit. And she was actually causing me to go through detox before I came home and spent Christmas with my family. So, I got bailed out on Christmas Eve's Eve, December 23rd.
Yeah.
And then I had to go to my family gathering the next day. Here's what I know it was so bad. Like, I was not... In addiction, I really didn't like family. And I really didn't like family that I didn't know my whole life. Like my mom's fiance, I love his family to death. I really do. But they weren't my favorite crew to be around when I was getting high because like it was just, they were looking at me wild because this wasn't what they were used to. So I knew that his family Christmas was like the 21st or something. And I called mom. I was like, please come get me. I got to be at Chris's family Christmas. She said, you're so full of shit. And then like I even tried to get out of going to my actual family Christmas on the Christmas Eve because I was like, I'm not going if they're going to be mean to me. Like if after all this, if I have to go listen to them talk shit about this situation, I will not go. And I mean, I stood on that and I still kind of do because like I've been through enough. I don't need you to tell me about it right now. But Mama actually called my uncles on speakerphone and made them promise because they'd been on my ass real hard and then made them promise that they would be nice to me and not make me feel any worse than I already felt through the situation. So I went to their family thing, and I actually have one of my favorite pictures ever of me and my Uncle Mike standing out in my Paul's front yard with his arm around my shoulder and my arm around his waist, and we're just looking off onto the road when he's telling me, you know, he's talking to me. He wasn't talking at me. He was genuinely talking to me for the first time in a long time. And that was the last Christmas that anybody had to take me outside to have a come to Jesus meeting with me, which was beautiful because that was a very regular occurrence for me. And then I also, so Tiffany Johnson, I don't know if you know her. She's one of my best friends. She's very involved in my recovery story. She's very involved in a lot. She's done a lot for me.
She lives in Pulaski area?
No, she lives in Dixon. She got me into Freeman. So whenever we were at Mirror Lake together, she was my best friend throughout Mirror Lake. She went to Freeman afterwards. I didn't think I needed sober living, so I didn't go. So she went to Freeman and done their sober living and all those programs that they do. And then she worked for them afterwards. So whenever I was arrested, that's the first person my mom called was Tiffany. Because Tiffany had also been messaging me throughout all this time. Like, I love you. You look like shit. Get it together. If you need some help, let me know. I'm here. So my mom called her. And then the day after Christmas, or actually Christmas Day, I called Tiffany and done my whole intake. And then I was at Freeman the day after Christmas. My mom was really funny. She actually got me drunk on the way because we weren't sure if my drug test was going to have anything in it because I hadn't done anything in 7 days. So we weren't sure, and my insurance had to cover it. So I got drunk as shit on the way into rehab. I was like, I might become an alcoholic. This is actually kind of fun. You know, 8 a.m., just plastered. It was awful. Chasing it with Dr. Pepper. It was a mess. But I stumbled in to Freeman. Still failed the drug test. Didn't have to drink, really. But it was definitely like no other treatment center, I think. Like Mending Hearts was not meant for me. I can say that now after experiencing it. That was not the type of treatment that I needed at the time.
I think a lot of it has to do with who we are at the time we walk in too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I've been to 9 treatment centers and some of them were great looking back, and like I just wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like for me it was Buffalo Valley and Castilian Springs that did it. When I went to way better treatment centers, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like overall, like case management wise and like clinical care, I went to way better ones, you know.
Right.
It was the shittiest one that
Mm-hmm.
did, yeah.
It makes you realize you got to get where you're at. You
Oh,
know?
everybody there's on furlough and they got to do what they got to, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I was on furlough, everybody else is on furlough. Like it was very like peer driven and like everybody was kind of aimed at the same way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's kind of how Mending Hearts was. Like, you know, they put you on food stamps. It was more of like self-living with some guidance.
Yeah.
And I was not into
Ready.
that. I wasn't ready either at all. And they also had designated smoke breaks, and that shit pissed me off. Like, they had actual posted times, like 15-minute intervals where you could smoke a cigarette, and like it was posted. And if you smoked a cigarette outside of these times, smoking privileges got taken. And that pissed me off. I was like, I done quit doing everything else I like to do. I'm gonna smoke a cigarette when I damn well please. And after that experience, I checked with every treatment center that I talked to if I got to smoke a cigarette whenever I felt like it. And they were like, as long as there's no group. And I was like, cool. So like that, but I also say it all the time. I didn't want to get sober. If I wanted to get sober, I would have dealt with the smoking breaks, like as like a normal person would have. But I didn't truly want that for myself yet.
We're just in that headspace prior. Is like we're gonna do it the way we want to do it, and we're just like also living like a selfish life. So like everything's gonna happen the way I want it to fucking happen, or I'm not coming. Yeah. I mean, people that work at missions at treatment center hear it constantly. What can I bring my girlfriend? Can she come? Can I bring my dog? I'm not coming.
Right.
I'm like, well, I guess you're not coming.
It's a mess. And like Freeman, I will say was like, I was like it. I knew without a shadow of a doubt when I was arrested and got out, like when my mind cleared and I wasn't just really scratching myself to get high. Like when I got a couple days where I hadn't used and I was able to actually think a little bit, I realized like I was charged as a felon. Like my original charges were felony charges. I had got a very good look at what my life could and would look like if I didn't get my life together. That scared the shit out of me. I don't want to go to prison. I got these babies.
You were headed there.
I was heading there. I had no stops. And I was like, this has got to give. So when I went into treatment, I didn't like go into this like mindset of this is gonna work, this has to work. But I had this mindset of whatever I've got's not working, I need something else. And I'm willing to try whatever you're willing to offer me.
Yeah.
And that was a mindset I'd never had before. I went into Freeman thinking, okay, I'm gonna be here for a year, And I went in to Freeman and I loved it. The groups, like the housing, it was a really good ordeal for me and I really loved it. And I loved the people. And I think that the people you're in treatment with makes a big difference. Like I felt like it was an all the time slumber party. It was a really good time. There was very little drama. But my one and only date of 2020 was a court date, like the 2nd of January, very quick. And I went to court. And had I not went to rehab immediately upon release almost, I would have been really screwed because they were painting me as this big drug dealer because that's what I was. I was a drug dealer, but I was also a very heavy user. I wasn't necessarily making any money. I was just using for free. And that was what I was doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So they were about to paint this picture of this kingpin or queenpin that I wasn't, that had to go away because, she was just causing wreckage on the streets. But here I am in rehab and drug dealers don't go to rehab. Drug addicts go to rehab. So that was like, I just sat there with my mouth really quiet and like shut while they were saying all these things. Cause like the old me would have wanted to protest and tell them all, how great I was. But all I was trying to do was not go to jail. And the going to treatment knocked me down to where a methamphetamine charge in the state of Tennessee is a 30-day for a day sentence. Like you don't get a job. You have to serve those 30 days.
Yeah.
So when
possession.
Yeah, for possession. So when they knocked it down to a simple possession from
which is crazy to think about.
Right.
Well, for like, I mean, just knowing and then putting meth in my arm for so many years, like 30 days just doesn't seem like enough, really. But,
right.
yeah.
It's like, wow. But so they put me in there for that. I'd already served a few days whenever I was originally arrested. So that went towards me. They messed up and gave me a job for like a day and a half and then realized that I couldn't have one and took it away. I was down for the job for an extra sandwich and a drink. Okay. I was like, y'all don't have to take days off my sentence. Just let me have the sandwich and the Kool-Aid. That's all I really want. But I did my time and it wasn't that bad. I didn't want to go because I was actually sober. Like that was the first time I'd ever been to jail sober. Like not under any type of influence. And it was the most difficult. I got to go turn myself in. That's no fun. And like in the court, I love to try to play whatever I can. In the courtroom, they were like, you got to serve 30 days. When do you want to serve? And I was like, when I get done with rehab. They were like, when you get done with rehab? I was like, in a year? And they're like, no, we'll see you February 1st. And I was like, fuck. So I went back to treatment and I was finished. Like they let me finish my inpatient part of Freeman. So I finished all of my inpatient and then it was really cool. Freeman was very scared that I wasn't going to come back to complete like sober living, IOP and all that. So they had me pack all my stuff and put it in my counselor's closet. So that way I had to come back. Even if I didn't want to come back as a patient, I had to come back and see you to get my stuff. Because that was all my things. Like everything I owned was really there. And so I went to jail, served my time. 3 of the girls I was in jail with actually wound up furloughed or went to treatment afterwards, like that had been really hopeless. And like we had our own little NA thing going on in there. Like I was not trying to get turned into the jail lifestyle. I was just trying to make it through it. And the Nashville tornadoes hit while I was locked up, and COVID shut everything down when I was locked up. So I remember them coming, even though like I'm from Giles County and it's really far southern. A lot of people where I live have family up here in Nashville, Murfreesboro, and stuff like that. So they came and told us all that the tornadoes had hit, and they were gonna let everybody know if there was anything, like keep everybody updated, because we didn't have a TV. Walmart tried to donate TVs to Giles County Jail, and they sold them. Okay. They said this is not a place for fun. All the commissary sucks. It's not a good fun place. But so like we did that. I played a lot of spades, and then I got out, and my mom like came and got me that night, because since it was a day for day sentence, I didn't get to get out at midnight like everybody else. I had to get out at the exact time I booked in. So my mom came and got me, which she loved that. She didn't have to come pick me up at midnight. But she came and got me, and then the next morning we woke up, and she drove me back up to Dixon, and I went back into Freeman. I was mad. They made me go through the blackout period all over again and stuff. But I went into the IOP program. I had the best IOP teacher. I loved him. His name was Paul. He was the shit. Oh my God. He made everything make sense to me. And he actually like looked at me when I was done with IOP, and he was like, you're going to help a lot of people one day. I just really believe it. And when I got into this field, I had Tiffany let him know that I actually got into the field, and I was trying, as he made me want to do that. And the COVID shutdown, I was in Dixon, and then they let me go to work. I worked at McDonald's. I became a manager at McDonald's in Dixon. I loved working there. And they would take us to like, what's Montgomery Bell State Park and stuff. But they wouldn't let our families come visit us. And like, it's really hard to talk to like 3-4-year-olds on FaceTime. And it's hard to like give them, I wanted to give them a hug. I really hadn't seen anybody. And I'd been institutionalized for like 2 months at this point. So I was just like, I don't know. I need to see my family. And I kind of went crazy about it. Like I wanted to go home.
Like obsessive.
Yeah. Like I didn't want to hear anything unless you were telling me you were coming to get me and take me to my house. My mom told me that I was not allowed to come home until I learned what recovery was. Because due to the shutdown, we weren't going to meetings. I didn't get recovery. I just got dry because I got sober in the middle of all of this. And they weren't like mandatory making us do Zoom meetings. It was really new. No one knew what to do. Everybody was just scared, and then they let our families come on a day that we went to Montgomery Bell. So like my whole family got to come see me. It was like the best day ever. Then my mom and I came up with a game plan. Find a sober living house that's not as restricted and get there, and then like we can work on our relationship. But I can't go home because my mom was just terrified of me coming home in the middle of COVID.
I think she's terrified of you coming home in general.
Yeah. It was a really hard fight. I'm not allowed to live in her house under any circumstances. I do know that for a fact. It has been very clear to me. But, so I found this one house called Lotus Recovery House in Florence, Alabama. A lot of my story takes place in Alabama. I love Alabama. I just don't like paying state taxes, so I won't live there. But I was going to go there. I put my 2 weeks notice in at my job. I gave Sean Baker my 2 weeks notice for Freeman. And then my mom the woman texted me the day before I was like moving down there, and she was like, I'm so sorry, but we all have COVID. So we're going to have to like push it back. And I was like, no. I'm leaving this motherfucker today. And my mom was like, Jess, and I was like, we're figuring this shit out. So we found some like hole in the wall halfway house in Huntsville. And I don't even remember the name of it. I don't remember the woman's name. She was very kind. She bought me shampoo and conditioner. Like she did take very good care of me. But this was like you lived in the house. You got a job where she said you got a job at.
Like a reentry.
Yeah, it was like a sewing machine factory where they sewed flags and stuff. That was where you were going to work. And then like it was like there was no like meetings weren't mandatory. Like I wanted to go to a meeting, so I got her daughter to come get me and take me to one like my first day there. And then my mom though, like we had also put my application into this place called Best Life Recovery Residences.
Okay.
I'm about to rant and rave about them. I love that place. Oh my God, they saved my life. So I was sitting at that house.
Where is it at?
Huntsville.
Okay.
So I was sitting, and this other house was in Huntsville too. So I was sitting in that house, and like I was actually in the backyard, and this stray cat was sitting in my lap. And this woman named Stephanie just randomly texted me, and she was like, I just got your application. I'm sorry, I've been on vacation, but I feel like you'd be a really, really good fit here. And I was like, I'm good. I'm already somewhere, you know, but if this doesn't work out, I'll remember you. She was like, okay, you know, don't forget. Well, like the next day, I was in that house all by myself all day because my roommate, the only other girl that lived there, already went, like she already had that job, so she went to work, and I hadn't got the job yet. So like I was stir crazy. It's the first time I'd been all alone in a long time. I'd been in communal living for such a long time. I texted that Stephanie like woman, and I was like, are you still, like, you know, is that still available? And she was like, yeah. I was like, I'm at this house. I don't know a lot about it, but I really don't think this is the place for me. I'm about to talk to the woman and see if it's okay if I go to your house. Is there any way you could come get me? Because I don't have any means of getting anywhere. And she was like, yeah, just talk to the woman, let me know. So I talked to the woman, and she was very understanding. She like, when the roommate was like, why is Jess leaving? She was like, she needs like a higher level of care, but I really didn't need a higher level of care. I needed a community. I needed people. And like,
was that place faith-based?
Kind of, yeah. Like she was like, you went to church every week and stuff like that.
They take you to work. And,
yeah. So like, it was just not what I was used to or what I was really looking for at the time. I needed AA. I needed a sponsor. I needed somebody to tell me what to do and how to do it and when, because I'd been failing. So Stephanie came and got me. The woman gave me my rent money back because I only stayed there for like a day and a half. And Stephanie came and got me. I moved into Best Life. And that was like the place I learned so much about what it is to be a real woman in recovery, what it is to be a woman in general that respects herself. I learned how to have self-worth. I got in a lot of trouble. I was the youngest there. I was 23 when I moved in. I was 23 when I got sober. So like I was the baby of the family.
Yeah, I was 24.
And nobody really wanted me there because I was a baby, and they were all like 30s and above. But also I never acted like a 23-year-old. I acted like, you know, I'd been through some shit. So I was just trying to live. I rolled in there with a pair of raggedy old cowboy boots, some sweatpants, and some t-shirts, all my prized possessions, things that I felt were worthy enough to take places with me. And I remember like my first day there, maybe, they were like, we're going to go play volleyball with the people from AA. You want to come? And I was like, no. And they're like, too bad, and put me in the car. And then all these people that I'd never met, and I don't do well with strangers like that, like were just coming up to me wanting to talk. And I was like, and then they were like, play volleyball. And I was like, no, I'll watch. And they were like, come on. And then that Tuesday volleyball became my favorite thing to look forward to every year, every summer. The AA groups there were the best, I think. Like, I've not really been to AA in Nashville, but I have like been to AA and NA in my little baby town. I'd never experienced anything like I experienced at Huntsville group or at Fellowship. Like, those were places that I felt like I truly belonged.
Well, that happens when we first get sober anyway. So it's like where it happens for us, yeah.
Right. So
it's
like
a euphoric, nostalgic feeling. Of everything is like in the right place at the right time and the right people are there.
So excited. I was like, oh my God, y'all understand what I'm going through. So I dove in, like the rules there were like AA was the main like event.
So many meetings a week. And
NA meetings counted for you, obviously, but you had to have an AA sponsor. And I had big beef with AA at first because I was an alcoholic. I was a drug addict. I like dope. I really never understood alcoholics' mindsets. Like, it never made sense to me.
Yeah.
So I was just going into AA, but I was like, this doesn't make sense. How do I fit in here? It's just a bunch of old white men. Like, that was really all it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, how can I, like, make this work for me? And then I heard an old white man tell my story. And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I was like, how did you know that? And he was like, that's my life too. And I was like, oh my God. And then I would hear people come in and talk about losing their children. And I would hear people come in and talk about losing their spouse or losing their job, things that like are really detrimental in early recovery, like losing a job. That could throw you out really quick. And my favorite thing to do as I started gaining time was I love, and I still love to do this, I love to find the broken motherfuckers slinging snot.
Me too.
And I like to go sit next to them in the middle of the meeting. And I like to make sure I bring a Kleenex. And I like to make sure that they know that they're seen, they're not judged, they're loved, and they're never alone. Because that was me when I got here.
I don't like the, you're speaking of like the broken crying ones, but I like the ones that are like, I've actually had to really evaluate myself, but like people that walk in the room and they have like face tats and just like everybody in the room kind of is like, oh fuck, like this guy. I'm like, nah, I got it. That's me.
Mine.
He's me. Yeah.
Mine. See, I love the criers, which also as a female, I feel like, because I would go sit with the females that were boo-hooing in the middle of the meeting over those things.
Something happens with like the tough, I mean, literally, like I've had sponsees, like, you know, violent histories of like strong arm and murder and other type of like really violent behavior. It seems like those men they trust me, and they're able to like just allow me to like something they would never tell anybody because they can't. They'll just dump it on me. They might not cry. I mean, they do. That's their vulnerability, but like, I mean, I have seen them cry, but like,
Absolutely.
yeah. Sometimes they're the most emotional.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. And then like one time, because my home group, I love it. It's still my home group in Huntsville. I loved it. It's like the place that just, I held a service position there. I was the maintenance man. It was wild. Okay, I don't know why they picked me for that, but
Somebody's got to do it.
I loved it. I hated that job too, man. I started blocking people's phone numbers. It was ridiculous. As people were calling me about the AC, it's so hot in an all glass building. I'm like, dog, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's going to be hot. It's glass. Like there's sun beaming in from both directions. It's hot. But I loved it there so much. I loved all the people there because it was also like where all the halfway houses would bring their people. So it was like the young people of AA, and that's where I felt that most at home. And there was a few old heads in there that kept us all in line. But I remember one time I was telling my story, and like I actually invited a couple friends from Dixon to come down and some people from Tennessee to come hear it. And it was a really fun night. And I got up there on that podium and I looked up and there was standing room only. And there was literal people in like standing up, and just, it was the wildest thing in my life, as I was like, this many people came here to hear me, because my name was on the board all week, like all month. So I was like, y'all know it was me. You know, like, why are you here? And everybody's like smiling and clapping, and I'm just freaking out internally. And then I remember in that story, I just looked at everybody. I was like, I don't know you, but I love you, you know, and that's, I ain't gotta like you to love you. But I am going to love you no matter what. I'm going to love you for who you are and where you are. And everybody was like, we love you too. It was the cutest thing. So I loved AA. And I still do. I just don't get to go as much as I want to because I got sober and I got a life. And I just need to, I do mostly virtual just because I can hit up my home group like that. But I loved it. I loved living in sober living. I stayed in sober living for over 3 years. I was 4 years sober when I moved out. And because I graduated, so like there was levels to the shit, like most sober livings, but once you graduated, you could stay.
Yeah.
And like they had a pink or a purple gown and little hat. Like it was a whole deal. Your whole family came. You told your story. And my brother came to my graduation, and my stepfather, well, my mom's ex-husband, his dad had actually just gotten arrested for meth at the time. And when it came to my brother's turn to share, because everybody had to speak about like how they knew me or whatever, and my little brother, who had never really talked to me about my addiction ever, just spoke up and said, it's been a really hard time dealing with Jess. And then he starts crying and he goes, and I'm dealing with my father now too, so I'm just happy to see that somebody's making it. And there was not a dry eye. And I just go give my baby brother the biggest hug, because I'm just like, poor thing, you know, I stole your childhood. Because we're 7 years apart. So like by the time that he was getting to where he wanted the attention for real, I was just wilding out and everybody's attention was on me. So the graduation was great, and I got to tell my story and do the whole graduation bit, and I stayed. And I worked at Chick-fil-A for a while. Crazy, serving Jesus' chicken. That was insane.
My pleasure.
Yeah, man, it was crazy. Then I went to a pool cover factory where I actually I never sewed nothing, but they sewed together pool covers, and then I would inspect them and box them. And I was a forklift driver. I ran that forklift and all sorts of stuff. It was wild. Nobody needs to trust me with heavy equipment. I convinced my boss to teach me how to use the scissor lift, and you're going to love this. So he was like, why do you want to drive the scissor lift so bad? And I was like, because, Costin, I really want to get high, and that's the only way I can do it now. And it got me on the scissor lift immediately almost. It was a beautiful experience. But then so I'm a certified peer recovery support specialist, like through the state and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But I got it originally in Alabama. Alabama had a really, really cool program. I was actually able to apply to the University of Alabama. I was a student for a semester.
Yeah.
And I took like 2 college classes, and then I went through the CPRS training, which was like 40-hour training online, and took the test and became certified to the state of Alabama. And I done like some internships. So I got a few more fun things to put on my resume through the University of Alabama path. And I also got to be a student of my favorite college. So that was awesome. Like, that was just the coolest shit. And then when I moved up here, because I moved up here and like 2 years ago, I moved in with my fiance. That was like, you know, the only reason I came up here. I was convinced I was turning that halfway house into a retirement home because I was never leaving. I loved it. But when Kevin and I got together, I moved in with him, and I didn't really worry about transferring my peer licensure quite yet because I still worked. My first job in this field was at Bradford Health Services in Madison.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to put that there. Okay. And like I started in war, okay, in this field. I really got thrown into war. I honestly never want to work in patient rehabilitation ever again.
Really?
Yeah, it really messed me up. I was the counselor's assistant for a while, and then I became the lead counselor assistant, which is like basically a tech. And so I was the lead on second shift. I was in charge of the whole building when no leadership was there. I was leadership. I was the one that had to call the cops. I was the one, and I had to call the cops a lot. Had people call the cops on themselves. Had fights. I worked with predominantly the men because I'm small and tiny, and they for some reason listened to me. And they respected the hell out of me. But I was also very real with them about what this was. And if I saw you come through the doors more than twice, I would get kind of in your ass about it because you need to get your life together and stop coming here. I think you like it. But I also worked really heavily with the vets, and the vets are where my job like flourished. I love veterans. They're my favorite human beings to talk to. And, but yeah, Bradford was a war zone for me. And then I moved into the admissions department, and that's where like I just got a bad taste in my mouth because I wanted first shift, and that was the only way to go to first shift without taking a huge pay cut. And it's no one's fault.
Yeah,
and I know that it's just so hard to tell people that don't have insurance they can't come to treatment. And it's hard to tell people that do have insurance that they got to put their recovery on a $20,000 plan, and it may not work. As a person that's been through it, it's really hard to sell that to somebody.
Yeah.
So it broke me in ways I never knew I could be broken. And I also worked at Magnolia Ranch for a little bit in Pulaski. That was just too bougie for me. I need to be with the lowest of the lows. I really need to be with my people. I don't like, and I'm so sorry, but you still have $50,000 in your bank account. You're doing okay, in my opinion. Like, I know that you probably are at your bottom, but I can't understand that bottom. I've never seen that much money before. So like, I was just not able to really like talk to these people the way that I wanted to help them because I was also just like, I don't feel like you're doing better than me, and I am sober. So I really can't give you any advice, you know, that's going to change your world. I went to Mag Ranch, and they were bougie there, and I was like, I got it. And like, actually, because I took a break. I quit Bradford to work at Mag because it was 10 minutes from my house, like literally right down the road. And I was driving an hour to get to Bradford every day because I lived in Pulaski again.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought made the most sense. And so then whenever I was working there, it was just like, also they really wanted to control how we interacted with the clients is what they called them. And I don't like being controlled on how I can talk recovery with someone else.
They wanted to control you.
Yeah, they wanted me, like they had groups that laid out that you had to do. And like I was used to at Bradford, I'd done 12-step groups. So I done book studies every night with my patients because that's the best way to teach you what's going on. So I didn't like doing life skills groups, and I got paid way less. I took a big pay cut, and it was just ridiculous. So one day, and then I went to go speak at Buffalo Valley in Hohenwald.
Yeah.
Saw these girls in rehab, and I felt like I was at Bradford again, and I felt like I could actually help somebody again. And then I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't work at Mag Ranch. Like I just didn't feel like they hadn't reached my bottom yet, and I didn't want them to. And if you didn't have to, why should you? So I need to go with some people that's been to my bottom or lower. Again, I need to work with people, the bottom of the barrel. That's where I belong. So I texted my old boss, and I was like, hey, any positions open? And my old position had actually just come open. I mean, it was actually paying more than it did when I left. So I went and done my interview out in front of the building, smoking a cigarette in the gazebo with the old supervisor, got the job. All the patients, because there was like a shit ton of patients in like that were there at the time that had been there with me at some point in the past. All the patients were coming up to the lobby, giving me hugs, excited, couldn't wait till I come back. It was fun. And I went back and done all that up for a little bit again. And it's really funny when you work in a few different rehabs, you start seeing the same folks in these different rehabs, and it throws you off kind of, because I'm like, they're like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, what are you doing here?
I work here.
Right. And then so Tiffany comes back up while I was doing admissions, and I was hating my life doing that, because it was just really hard and heartbreaking to hear these people's stories and then not be able to help them. My best friend Tiffany had been doing drug and alcohol interventions for quite some time. And I've been watching her on Snapchat, traveling the country, just having the time of her life. And I wanted to do it. And I'd been wanting to do it for years, and I'd always told her, let me know if you ever have a job open up, I'd love to do it. So then while I was still working at Bradford, I was going on the weekends, and I was flying out to go shadow her do these interventions and learn about them. I wasn't getting paid, but I also wasn't paying for anything. Like, none of the flights, nothing. Family First was paying for all my stuff. So I fell in love with it. Now, it's the most nerve-wracking job I've ever had in my life. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't do anything when I was working, because I was so scared and just nervous, because you're going blind. I would get an email with the person's name, how old they were,
Some back history.
Yeah, some back history, like who all was going to be involved in the intervention, like the family members, how many books I needed to bring, and where to fly into, and like an address, so I could kind of find me a hotel near it, right? I didn't know what these people were going to be like when I met them. Most of them are really kind. I even stayed in one of their homes, like with them the whole entire time, which was kind of cool and kind of creepy. But I really enjoyed that job. But it was also like so much uncertainty in it, because I would go to, I went to Chicago, I got to go to California, I got to go all sorts of fun places. But I would meet the family the first day, and it would just be the family, not the intended patient. We would go over this book, and I would basically tell them what addiction is and what they're dealing with. And then we would talk about these letters that the family members would write. That would be basically the good things about you, and how amazing that you are, and how much they miss who they used to be, and memories from childhood or stuff, to bring the person that they love back out of that body for a minute. And then I would read all these letters. I'd figure out how they were going to sound, the best way to put them together, who is going to be the best person to ask them to get help. I would do all that, and then the next day, which is the most fun day, you did the intervention. And it's really fun when the family doesn't know where to find them. But I got to experience myself in Wichita, Kansas one time, getting cussed out on some random street after we found this lady that was strung out on meth, cussing us out because, God, we weren't the problem. And then we found some other random lady on the street because she wasn't standing and talk. She was walking us down the street while we were doing this intervention. She found some other lady and was like, here, do it for her. Take her to rehab on my account, and then just walk the fuck off. And I was like, that's me. And I loved it. I done 9 or 10 interventions last year. I only ever had one person tell me no. They were from Coleman, Alabama, close to home. I literally drove my own car down there, didn't fly, nothing. And he was wild. He was also on meth. And meth users are the hardest to get to agree to go to treatment. But that was definitely interesting.
Well, they always got something to do,
Always something to do.
Yeah, I got something else to do.
Gotta go to work. Gotta do something. I gotta go do something. I gotta go steal the Cadillac converter right now. Actually, you're catching me in a bad time. So they, that was a really fun job, and I really enjoyed it. But it just wasn't consistent enough. If I only get one intervention a month, I'm making $1,500 that month. That's it. I don't make any more, any less. I can't live off of that for a month and pay my bills. And they couldn't promise me one intervention a week. Now, if I was making $1,500 a week, I'd have never stopped, But it was a super, super fun job. It was cool as hell. And then, but it messed with my mental health a lot. I have anxiety. I have generalized anxiety disorder. Just recently got on medicine for it, but because I tried everything else, but I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I was always stressed, always overthinking, and I knew that wasn't good for me. And I knew it was a real issue when I couldn't even make myself eat in Las Vegas, that I'd never been before. I was like, okay, I can't even make myself buy a meal here in the city of my dreams. Then I need to do something different. But it was a great thing, and then I moved to MHC, and I've loved that throughout this. They inspired me to go back to school. So I'm currently in college.
Where at?
UT Southern, because it's where I live, but I've got my application into UT Knoxville online because I want to do their fully online degrees because I don't have time to go to class. I'm engaged, which is crazy as hell. I never thought that would
He's
happen.
crazy for sure.
He is, absolutely. Funniest story. So we got together. Like, my fiance's been I've been best friends with his younger sister my entire life.
Okay.
So like I've always been around him. He's always been in my life. So a few years ago, like 2023, New Year's Eve, going into 23, I texted him on Facebook or something, and I was coming home that night from when I got off work from Bradford. I was going to be coming all the way to Pulaski because I was staying with my mom that weekend. So I was like, what are you doing? So I was stopped by his house on my way to my mom's, and he didn't really understand like what my life was. Like, he thought that I was just a meth head. Like, most people think you just do meth. Like, you can do everything else fine. So he offers me a drink at his house on New Year's Eve, like, just not thinking of it. And I looked at this man. I said, boy, I will rob you blind tonight.
Yeah, I'll take all this shit.
I will take everything. Don't give me a drink, if nothing else. And he was like, holy shit. And, like, we have very strong boundaries in our relationship. If I do meth, there's no more relationship. If I do meth, I'm homeless. If I do meth, I lose my kids. I know those things without a shadow of my doubt. And that is like, I need those types of boundaries with people because, like, some people are like, that's like evil. He'd kick you out if you done meth. I said, it's not evil if I'm aware.
Yeah.
I know what's coming to happen.
It's literally a boundary.
Right. It's a boundary. There's children in this house. That's the safest thing you can do.
He has kids too?
Mm-hmm. So all together, I have the twins, and then he has a daughter and a son.
Okay.
So my full-time life is me and him, and then my stepdaughter lives with us full-time, and my children live with us full-time. So I live with 3 10-year-olds every day of my life. They're all the same age. It's fucking hell. And then my stepson's like 7, and we get him every other weekend.
Okay.
And then the twins, they go to their daddies every other weekend too. So like the weekends that we have Jackson, the twins are home, and we have all 4 kids. And then the weekends that the twins go to their dads, we just have Joey. Okay. So it works out pretty well. It took a lot to get us there. Like, we had to do a lot of fixing to the schedule, and like we'll still switch it up like for vacations and stuff. I've done some shit that I never thought I'd be able to do in my life. I took my mom, my daughter, my son, all to our very first ever college football game, Alabama Roll Tide. And I bought all the tickets, and it was Alabama versus Vandy, which is not like that big of a game, but my kids were born at Vandy. So it was a cool game for us to get to go to. And I've also taken my kids on 3 vacations out of my own pocket. And that was unrealistic for a long time.
Yeah.
For me. And I've gotten to take them to see the beach. I got to take them to I got to take them to Busch Gardens last year for like 5 days. That was fun. I only paid $1,400 for it though. Like, hotel, everything. That was the best deal I'd ever seen. But, I love being their mom, and I get really overwhelmed with it sometimes. And I also about a year ago, it was really interesting. Like, I have my iPad, my MacBook, and my iPhone, like, are all connected and in cahoots together. So they were all on my iPad going through my pictures one day. And, like, they saw, like, an old TikTok or something that I'd made where it was talking about how, like, much life has changed and how my kids used to, like, literally wait on me for hours to show up. And now, like, I'm where I say I'm going to be when I say it. And Jovi, like, never met that version of me in her life. So she was watching it, and she just thought, oh my God, such a cute video. Look how much your mom loves y'all. The twins saw it, and they hadn't seen it in a long time, and it brought a lot of that back to them. And another thing is, whenever I got my kids back, we just went on like nothing had ever happened. Like, we just kept living. We never took a minute to like truly appreciate that we were together again. And so like that was the moment, even a year later, that we all broke down in tears, like, and just truly held each other, and we're like, we finally got here. Because my mom had my kids for like over 5 years, and I never lost custody.
Yeah. But
my mom was very much a bitch about it. Like, she was not playing no games. So whenever like having them in the same house as me, putting them to bed every night, making them dinner, now it's annoying. But at first it was my favorite thing in the world. Like, I loved to cook, and I also worked second. So I only got to do those things a couple days a week. Now it's every day. I will fuck off for a little bit before I go home almost every day, just because I need some silence. But it is everything I ever wanted. I always wanted a family. I always wanted to feel like I belonged somewhere, I think. And that was what they do. They don't know it. They're the only reason I'm here some days. Like, they're the only reason I don't go get high some days. They're the only thing that keeps me firmly planted in the ground, because that is my boundary in my life. Like, is I know if I don't continue to work towards what I'm working towards, I lose that. And if I lose that, I've already told you I hate being alone. I cannot stand the loneliness thing. If I'm alone, I'm going to die. Like, if alone, addiction, death, that's the way my life will work. And I know that. And some people are like, why are you so real about it? I'm like, because I don't want that. It's like, surviving means a lot to me. I've always told people I went through what I went through because somebody else needs it. It's somebody else's playbook to get out. That's why I do what I do now. I love being a peer support specialist. I don't even think that it should be called that. I feel like it should just be called being a human. Because I love getting to meet people where they're at. And now I work with kids more, like teenagers.
Is that what you do at MHC?
I'm on the first episode of Psychosis team.
What's that like? Like, what's the dynamic of like what's going on? Like,
so it depends on the age, typically, and also where they're at in their psychosis and where they're at in their psychotic episode in general. Are they in the denial part of it? Are they accepting it yet? Are they willing to move forward?
Yeah.
The younger, like 15, 16 boys, they don't really want to accept it yet, and rightfully so. I've learned a lot on this team. Like, when I was in high school, I needed to be on a team like this because I do truly believe that my addiction stemmed from a lot of mental health. I was having full-blown anxiety attacks, panic attacks, psychotic episodes when I was a teenager. Not all of them were drug-induced. The drugs were what made me feel better about it afterwards. So, like, I even tell kids that are on our team, I'm like, you are so lucky to have this support. You're so lucky to have people that give a shit.
Yeah.
You know, because this wasn't even thought of throughout my teenage years.
It's hard for them to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they don't want to accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't even. Yeah, they don't believe it. They don't want to accept it. I mean, people. That's why there's 50-year-old people that aren't med compliant. And if they have accepted it, they think the medication dampens them as a person, and then they're not themselves, and like they want to live in that space, and like there is some truth to that, but like I don't know. My next door neighbor when I grew up, he was schizophrenic, so like I just grew up around it, you know.
Absolutely. And it's wild to like really see the way it affects different people. As like some people want to tell you, I'm hearing voices, I'm seeing things, the voices are telling me this, you know.
Yeah.
They genuinely want the help, and some people I think are so scared and aren't understanding what it is in general. Like, you're very loud about your psychosis when you're in it, and that's what I try to explain a lot to like these kids, because teenagers are going to do drugs, they're going to smoke, they're going to drink. Marijuana is a big thing to throw a mentally ill kid that's got a schizophrenic or, you know, any type of gene like that very deep down. Go smoke some weed that's going to throw it out early, typically. So explaining to them, like, you can't smoke. And I know it sucks. You're a teenage boy, you just want to smoke and fit in, but you can't, because you might get blacked out, you know. And like my worst fear is like one of my consumers to get their hands on some Molly or something like hardcore as a teenager, and then do it and throw themselves into that psychosis, that blackout, and like either wake up in jail or handcuffed to a hospital bed and no idea what happened. Because I know a lot of people that experience that shit. I've experienced that. So like, I try, but they also don't hear it, because it's so hard to get somebody to be like, understand this can and will happen to you, until it actually does. So it's just hard to work. It's hard to work with our people in general, and like addicts, mentally ill. I've taken a break from addicts right now because you gotta be too nice to them in rehab, and I just want to tell them to get their fucking shit together sometimes. So I was like, maybe I can be nicer to the mentally ill people.
Is that true? You can?
I can.
Okay.
Actually, I love homeless people. They're my favorite. I love to talk to them. One homeless guy told me recently he knew Kid Rock. Kid Rock shook his hand and told him to get his life together. I don't know if that's true, but it's true to you, my guy. Great for you. I'm so happy.
I think some people, you were talking about, some people don't know they're in psychosis, or they talk about it a lot, or they don't, you know, they're hearing voices. But I would say it's very common for them to think that they don't have a mental disease, that they're having a spiritual experience. And it's really hard for them to grasp. I mean, two things. That is possibly happening. I mean, I think that it could be a spiritual thing, you know, but it's also like, do you want to be well or not, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want to come out of this ever?
Yeah.
You know, and that's a really hard thing to like talk to people about, because I don't always like taking my meds. And I'm honest about that. You know, my meds make me lazy, and sometimes I want to get shit done. I liked speed. That was my favorite thing in the world. So I got to go unmedicated to behave half the way I did on dope, you know, to get something done. And people are like, you throw yourself into a manic episode just to clean your house, and that's the only way it's gonna get done. Okay. Like, sounds silly, but I do it once a week. That's the only way I can really get it done. But also, like, having that awareness about it. Like, okay, one day a week you can go unmedicated because you have things you need to do. The rest of the week, you got to be nice to folks. So you got to take your meds. Because that's what it is like, my anxiety, it caused me to just kind of be a bitch.
What kind of meds do you take? Like
Lexapro and hydroxyzine.
Okay.
Yeah, live, laugh, love, Lexapro. It's the shit. I swear to God, I love the level of not giving a fuck that I've reached. It's beautiful.
What?
Like, I am always thinking, like, very time anxiety, very just like, I need everything to work out. So when I'm taking my meds, I don't think about what I'm saying. Like, I'm not overthinking. I really don't give a fuck. I'm truly like raw and real the way that I want to be. And it's a beautiful experience that I was like, oh my God, my brain's off. Like, it's not constantly working against me.
Does it affect you any other way that's negative?
Not necessarily, other than the sweat. Like, I get hot easily. It got a lot easier. I'm naturally a very cold person. So, like, it's different it was a hard thing to get used to, of, like, not always being freezing. And then, like, being really hot in the summer was new for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to, like, summer's my favorite. I wasn't built for what we got going on outside right now at all. I stayed home for 4 days. I did not leave my house.
Like, well, men, it affects their, like, they affects their sex drive or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I don't think it affects that, but mine's always, like, since I've gotten sober, getting sober affected my sex drive in general.
Down or up?
Down.
Yeah.
And it was odd. It was an odd thing to experience, but also, like, I don't know, like, because I think that dope heightens it so much that, like, when you took that off, it was just like, where it went away completely for a while. But, and also, like, the year, like,
it like, depends who you're with, and, like,
right.
Yeah.
And I followed all the rules like a good AA individual. I went my year. And I wilded the hell out after that year too. I didn't understand that was like, because you were supposed to make true relationships with others. I thought you just needed to wait a year to sleep around again. So that's what I did. Because I used it as a way to feel better for a long time. Like, I was like, okay, I can't do drugs. And, like, I use this as a way to explain it in rehab too, because they was always hooking up and fucking in rehab when I worked at Bradford. Is you can't go get high, so what's the next best thing that's going to make you feel better almost immediately? And, like, my boss was talking about it yesterday, that sex is the second closest thing to what dope gives you in the brain. So, like, it's just such an odd thing. It's like, I don't know. I realized my addiction manifests in all form. I had a Red Bull problem for a while when I got sober. I drank 4 a day.
Yeah, I've had one.
I've had one. I quit smoking cigarettes in recovery. It took me a little bit. I still vape, but I was just tired of smelling like cigarettes. Now I want to stop vaping.
Yeah. It took me, I vaped for 7 years in recovery, and then 7 or 8 years. I think around year 8 or 9, I just set the vape down. And I don't know how it happened.
I prayed like I did for getting sober.
Yeah.
To stop smoking cigarettes. I, like, asked for the obsession to be removed and, like, worked the steps. And I honestly feel like I'm just not ready to put the vape down quite yet. Yeah. I like to smoke. That's like, I smoked meth. I never shot up anything. I always smoked it. If it was smokable, you could put it in my lap. It's like, I just love to smoke. I like to blow in it, everything. So, like, it's a hard habit to lay down for me. Yeah. Because it's just been in my life for over 10 years now. Like, it's just what I've always done. It's my vice. And the vapes smell and taste better. So, I'm like, at least it's a little bit better. But
I was, like, a really bad vapor, too. Like, I mean, I was always, like, blowing clouds. And, like, at one point, like, you know, I was building the coils and, like, dripping it. And, like, I was really involved with it. You know? And then I, like,
Did you hang out at the vape shops?
Yes. And then I became, like, more of, like, an everyday vapor. I found, like, what I was looking for. Mm-hmm. And then that kept going for, like, 4 or 5 years. And then I would try to, like, quit and, like, go down to zero nic or, like, just kind of vape nothing. It just wouldn't work. And then one day I guess I was ready. I just set it down. See,
I've heard about the zero nic vapes, and I feel like that would just piss me off.
Not as much as you think. I didn't even go through nicotine withdrawals when I stopped it.
Interesting.
It was more of a smoking, oral fixation. Like I would think, like, for days I would like, try to grab my vape or like I would think it's falling. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, but it's not on my lap.
Right.
You know, yeah.
That was, you know, a lot of people are like, just go to the no nic vapes, but it says really bad. I like the buzz from nicotine. I like
Do you
good
get a
nicotine
buzz from
buzz.
it?
A cigarette I do if I smoke it fast enough.
Yeah, a cigarette.
Vape, it depends.
Like in the morning.
Nah, not with the disposable ones. I use the disposable ones now, but I used to like do the fillable ones and stuff, and I would get like real high nicotine, and it would give me a buzz every time I hit it the first time. Yeah. And then like I told somebody at the halfway house that I liked smoking a cigarette from time to time, because it gave me a buzz, and she was like, "That's bad," and I was like, "I'm not doing anything. I just like the head high for a minute. It's a very short-lived thing." But it's definitely been an interesting. It's interesting because I don't want to vape anymore because I'm tired of buying them and I'm tired of picking flavors, and it's just like such a headache to deal with it. Like I'm a very type C person. Like it's I'm not type A. I'm not got my shit together. I'm not even halfway got it together. But like I was riding around with this vape that's kind of like a hookah. It's kind of got like a hookah top, but it's just a handheld vape. I lost the hookah top. It came off and there's just a hole in the top, and I was just hitting the hole. Okay, like.
Type C.
Type C. Very much like I'm on my way, kind of, person.
What does this mean?
Well, the internet has gathered. Like I kind of made it up and went along with what they've been calling it, but very unorganized.
All right.
But like I will help you organize your shit. I'm just not gonna do mine.
Like take the CD out of the car, drop it, and never look at it again.
Yeah, that's the type of life I like to live.
How many like on your phone, like how many messages do you have not read at the moment?
That bothers me, but like emails doesn't. So like I have like 7,000 some odd emails. I got like 7 missed calls and voicemails to listen to. I just don't like texts to like sit there with like that does bother me for some reason. But emails, Facebook notifications, all that can wait till I have a minute. But yeah, like it's just I'm very much all over the place, I feel like sometimes. And I feel like I've always been this way. And I just accepted it because I've tried to change. Like I genuinely have tried to bully myself into being better about like clean your house, clean your car, make, keep your shit together. But I'm not happy when I'm doing those things. Like I feel more stressed and like who am I trying to impress? Because I don't give a shit.
I feel, the other way. So like if it could get a little dirty in my truck or my house, but like if it starts getting too much, like I get overwhelmed and it stresses me out. Like so it makes me feel stressed, like I like walking in and not having to do anything.
I'll leave the room if it starts overwhelming me.
I'll just leave the fucking room. That room doesn't exist.
I just will like cancel it out until I feel like getting there, because like eventually it will bother me enough, because like I can't work in a dirty space. Like I can't.
Pretty sure this is ADHD.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah, like that's my mom, because I was like, I think I'm bipolar. She was like, no, I think you have ADHD. And I was like, well, I can't take Adderall because I will abuse it. So we're going to live like this, but I will, because it will bother me. Like if I have to do my homework, I need my bed made, because I like to do my work in my bed because I like to be comfortable and warm, but I need it made. I need the space like to all be usable for me in my fashion. And some people are like, you can ignore it and turn a blind eye to it for days, and then one day you just get sick and go on a whole rave and like throw everything in the house away. And I'm like, yeah, that's just like how I operate.
Yeah. A lot of people with ADHD have to create urgency to even do tasks. That's what sounds like what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, we got to get it done. Got to do whatever.
I don't have to do that. I have to like, I think I have ADHD, but not like there's like multiple different forms of ADHD, but mine is I have really bad problems switching tasks, which is a good thing because like I'm gonna finish this task, but like if I'm doing something and you come talk to me, like it's really hard for me to be a nice person to you because I can't let it go, because I'm afraid I'll never come back to it. I'm afraid I won't finish it, so it's really hard for me to switch. And like I've got better at be like, hey, I have to finish this. I'm not trying to be an asshole or rude, but like back the fuck up off me.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just very like, I'm like that in a sense of if I'm texting, I have to say it out loud, especially if I'm talking to someone else. Like if I'm in a conversation or if I'm on the phone, and especially if it's like an important text and I don't want to mess it up and I've got to text somebody back, I'll be saying what I'm texting while I'm texting. And the person I'm talking, most of the people I talk to have gotten used to me And they're like, I don't know anything you're talking about, so it's not me. But like, especially like work texts and stuff, I have to read it out loud and like do a lot out loud so that way I can process what's going on. Because I will start texting what I'm saying to my friend immediately, and then we're all confused. And then my coworkers are calling me like, Jess, what are you talking about? Like, I got in trouble not in trouble, but the therapist called me out because we done a Zoom meeting the other day for work, and I didn't know my mic was on, my camera was off. I was watching Lucifer, just chilling, and they was like, what are you watching? And then my volume was all the way down too, so I couldn't hear anything. So I'm like, when I popped up, they were like, hey, you okay?
It's a dangerous move.
I know. I was like, shit, my bad. But yeah, I'm grateful. I've learned all this stuff. Like, I didn't know I had anxiety until I got sober.
Yeah.
I picked, like, my face, my before picture, I was unrecognizable. Like, my entire face was covered in scabs, bags, like deep, deep bags going all the way down to here. It was really, really bad.
You were a picker?
I finally figured out to pick up my legs and my arms, leave my face alone.
Okay.
But like, even as a kid, because like I had sores because I had really thick hair and like dandruff, and there's a lot of going on with my scalp. So as a kid, I would scratch at my scalp all the time. And like, I've always been a picker. It's always been my favorite thing to do because of the anxiety. But no one realized it until I got sober.
My dad's a picker.
Yeah. And like, it's just like kind of an anxiety, I think an anxiety tick almost. Like, if I get to thinking or something, like even today, if I get to thinking, I'll start scratching at my head just because like, and I guess it kind of works. I feel like somebody had to do that because there's the whole thinker that's scratching their head like image that people get.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's how.
It's like self-soothing.
Yeah. And I also I'm a fidgeter. I mess with my necklace. Like, I just have to do something most of the time. But
does some of it have to do with self-harm, like small self-harm, or no?
No, but I'm glad you mentioned that because I mentioned some losses in recovery, and there's a couple that were incredibly bad, and I almost left out a really big part of my story. So my Uncle Mike, that gave me all my come to Jesus stories out in the front yard. September the 23rd of 2022, he committed suicide. That's the first time in my life that I'd ever been that close to somebody that took their own life. That's what led me into the field of addiction and recovery and all of that. Truly, like, my own story didn't, but after that experience, I wanted the opportunity to try to save someone from themselves. And that fucked me up. Like, I wanted to drink. I wanted to do dope. I wanted to do anything. I did not want to feel the way I was feeling. And I remember even telling my mom, I was like, give me a beer, give me a joint, give me something right now. And she was like, no. She was like, if you do that today, you'll never come back because you're not doing it for any other reason other than you don't want to feel this, and you're never going to have the opportunity because you'll die. And I needed that. And I also, like, I told myself Mike Lentz would come haunt my ass if I went and used over his death because of the fact, like, we were so close. He was one of my best friends. He taught me how to pitch softball. Like, he was the shit. He was the coolest. He was a legend. He signed with the damn Boston Sox. Okay, he's the shit. But that ruined my life for a short period of time. And then, like, I also was able to learn, though, in that time, going through that, being there for my little cousins, his daughters, being there for my mom, his sister, and experiencing all that, and then going to his funeral. After the funeral, we're from the South. After the funeral is a party. Everybody parties. There's a lot of drinking happening, a lot of bonfire. So all my uncle's friends and family, we all went to his house, and I hung out for a while, and then they brought the moonshine, and I was like, it's time for me to go, because that's a dangerous situation because I still don't feel good. So I drove all the way back down to Huntsville, went to my little favorite Tuesday night volleyball game, and went around people that knew how to help me at the time. And I sat in the AA hall all night when I found out he killed himself. Because I remember I went to the dentist for the first time in years that day, and they were going to fix my teeth and like pull all my teeth out of my head and do what I wanted to do. And they called, like, I'd just done that, and I was scared, very scared of the dentist because I fell asleep when I was a child and they fucked my teeth up really bad. So, like, I'm very scared of them. And I was calling my mom and I was talking to her about it, and because she has had all hers pulled, so she was like, helping me through it all. And then she was telling me how worried she was about her brother because she hadn't heard from him all day. And she called a friend of the family, and then she called me and told me to sit down and told me what had happened. And, like, all that's edged in my brain. And I say it all the time. I was exactly where I needed to be because I was in my room in the halfway house, and the girl in the room next to mine heard me scream and fall, came and got me, picked me up out of the floor, walked me down the stairs, and lit me a cigarette. and put me with everybody I needed to be with because we were all on the front porch talking. So, and I lost my grandfather as well when I was living in the sober living house. He passed away a few months prior to my uncle passing away, but he was natural causes. Like, we all knew it was coming. And the halfway house and my sponsor and everybody held me up after that and like really truly supported me and, you know, what I was going through. Even Stephanie, the woman that owned the halfway house, came to my grandfather's funeral. She drove all the way from Huntsville to Lewisburg for a man that she's never met in her life just to be there for me and my family. And it meant a lot. And then when I moved out of the halfway house, okay, so like 3 days before I moved out of the halfway house. So my mom, my dad's mom, was my ride or die my entire life. Like, that was my dog. I loved her. Me and her were besties because I was the only grandchild that lived in Tennessee for a really long time. So she passed away. She had like a hip surgery, a hip replacement, and she was just old and it didn't go well. And she passed away. I was there when she passed away. Like, I managed to get off work, was able to drive up to the hospital and be there for all the things. Her funeral was in Kentucky, and I was still like in the sober living house, but I'd already said I was moving out on this specific day. And it was like April 20th, odd number, 420 again, you know, but, it was some certain day that I was moving out. And like Stephanie had even told me, because the funeral was in Kentucky, I'm a girl in a halfway house. I don't have the kind of money that's just ready to go book a hotel in Kentucky at a moment's notice, you know? So my grandfather, luckily, because my grandfather hasn't been my biggest fan in quite some time. He's really mad at me for being an addict because my dad was an addict and he feels like I should have just learned better from what his life was like. But he paid for me and my kids a hotel room to be able to go up there and be at my mama's funeral. And when I was telling you about feeling left out, right? My papa hates my mom more than anything. Like, they don't clash well. So my mom couldn't come be with me at this funeral. My fiance, which was my boyfriend at the time, he'd never met my mama. So, like, it was just going to be an odd, and, like, he had Jovi and stuff. She's not the type of kid you can just take to a funeral of a stranger. So, like, he couldn't really come support me. So, I mean, I loaded myself and my 2 kids in my little car at the time, drove up to Hazard, Kentucky, and stopped at Sam's Club on the way. And, like, luckily, Papa bought me our hotel room, but it was really just me and them. And I remember, because it was a 3-day funeral, because old people are wild. But that last day, you know, everybody walks up to the casket. Well, one, nobody left any room for me in the family pews. So me and the kids were like way back. Because there was no place for us to sit. Fine, whatever. But, like, I watched my dad and my stepmom and my sister walk up to my mama's casket and, like, cry and say their goodbyes. I watched my cousins. I watched my papa. I watched everybody have, like, somebody with them. And then I walked up to my mama's casket, my best friend, the woman that taught me everything in life, with my 2 children by my side. That was it. And, like, I was so lonely. And, like, I was sober. This was the best, you know, I'm doing so well in life. So proud of myself. And I'm still so lonely in a room full of people that are related to me. And then my dad, like, after about 5 minutes, because I stood up there for a hot minute. That was my memo. Now I had to let her, it took me a minute. But he finally came up there and stood with me. Because, like, I was about to fall. Because, like, I was going through it. As, like, you know, this was a few years ago, but it was a hard time for me. And, like, I think he realized, like, I did need a parent. Like, I'm an adult. And I think that since he's been out of prison, I've been an adult. I was 21 with 2-year-old twins when he was released from prison, which is a hard slap on the face for anyone, I'm sure, to have that. Like, the last time he saw me, I was, like, 12. So I feel like, in a way, he feels that, like, I'm an adult and I don't need a dad right now anymore. Like, I don't need him. And, like, we talk. We have I don't want to say a great relationship, but we speak. And I love my dad. I have a lot of resentment towards him. There's still a lot of things I don't understand. And I think me going through a very similar lifestyle and getting it together at an earlier age caused a little bit more resentment towards him. And I mean, he's even told me that he's grateful I was able to get it before I ended up in prison. But that whole dynamic, I think, like, I haven't really messed with my dad's side of the family since my mama died. I don't feel like I belong there anymore. And I don't feel like my children do either. And, like, that sucks. It really does. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
I can't change it. And like I said, I still talk to my dad, but I mean, my stepmom don't want me there. So it's just a crazy situation. But, you know, it is, like I said, it is what it is. And I do what I can to take my next step forward. I've said a lot of terrible things to that side of my family. I truly have. And I've owned up to all of it. But I haven't said anything to them. I haven't been mean to them in years. Only thing I've done recently is ask what the fuck Maylene's problem is with me. Because why do you lock me out of your house? I'll never understand. But, you know, I've learned through recovery that I can't make you see me. But what I can do is make sure that I do what I'm supposed to, no matter what. I always like to remember that you're doing the right thing all the time, not just when people are looking your way. I do a lot of shit that I don't talk about because it's nobody's business. And now if somebody owes me, I do talk about it. Now, if I let you borrow money and you owe me and you start asking my friends for money, I'm telling them that you still owe me money. Okay. And like that pisses people off, apparently. But I'm very like, I want to be helpful. And like, I don't even feel bad. And I don't get mad at nobody if that owes me money. I don't get mad because I never give with the expectation of anything coming back to me ever. But I also don't like to talk about it because I don't feel like that's something that I should boast ever about. I should just do what God wants me to do.
I mean, I could just see it on you, just talking to you and just even getting to know you, that like you have service in your heart and you want to help people, you know. So it doesn't, you don't really have to say it, you know.
Thank you.
People just have it on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
At the end of every podcast, like it's called Powerful Beyond Measure, which is based on a poem. And the poem starts out is our deepest fear. And then it continues the poem. I'll tell you the poem afterwards, but you'll say, like, you'll answer the question with the question. So you'll say my deepest fear is, and then you'll have time to think about it. And then you'll answer the question, and then that'll be the end of it.
So my deepest fear is losing my kids in any shape or form of it, like what that would look like. That's always been my biggest fear, is somebody taking them or me losing them.